All
right, we're live.
Got that link?
Yeah.
You tired?
No, I think that was one of those nervous yawns.
Oh.
You know?
There it is.
Tweet this out to the peoples. Boom, done.
Nice.
All right.
You want to just go ahead and start?
Want to get any music? Okay.
Oh, fuck my life.
I'm ready to start. Sure. Let's do it.
The logo just went away.
What logo?
The one in the corner.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Unless you can do it real quick.
Nope. Let's just do it.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
You're listening to Thunderheads, a podcast for Thunder fans.
Just kidding.
What happened?
I forgot to hit R.
Oh my gosh. I was wondering.
I thought it was S now.
No,
For start.
You've always thought it was S.
Start.
Oh.
It's like a video game.
Yeah.
You've just also always...
It starts selective.
You've
Stop the
always
recording.
been wrong also.
Left, left, right, 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 left, left.
Boo,
Okay,
boo.
now we can
Jason
do it.
has a lot more on his plate now, though.
Yeah, so many things.
I don't want to hear excuses.
We're
I'm
just sitting here fiddling with
not
our
doing
dicks.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm doing
It'd be
that.
more fun.
I'm doing that under here.
All right.
You're listening to Thunderheads, a podcast for Thunder fans by Thunder fans.
Welcome to Thunderheads. I am Brandon Soul, joined by the Doctor, Rob Larson,
What's up?
and of course the dark and stormy Jason Lewis.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of a somber tone in here after that game last night. Did you guys watch it?
You could say that, yeah.
Thunder start off hot, right? What was the first quarter? 25-10, and then the rest of the way, 84 to 61.
Yeah.
By the Kings, by the 1-8 Kings, who shoot 46.8% from the field for the game, and that's after the first quarter shooting somewhere around 4%.
Well, you look at the that second and third quarter where it was just horrendous. The Thunder only managed 32 points in those two quarters, which is what the Kings scored in the second quarter. So that's not good.
Yeah.
That's never going to end
No,
well.
that's not, especially after the first quarter when the Thunder's defense looked really good, but the offense still wasn't really clicking in the first quarter where they could just really pile it on. You know, it was like 10-zip with halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were just killing the Kings. And the game starts off 4 straight assists by Russell Westbrook.
3
Look
to
at-
Adams.
3 to Adams.
He
Look
also had 4 rebounds, like right then too. Like he hadn't scored any points, but like
Yeah.
Also, I was watching or listening to the first quarter on the radio, and Pinto was like, "This is really ugly." Like he was just kept saying how ugly it looked and like
So
how
ugly.
they weren't into it and everything. So I was like, "This doesn't feel good at all, even from the beginning."
No.
And so like, and then as it went on, it just got worse, like so much worse.
And no starter scored for Sacramento until I don't even know when.
It was the second quarter.
Yeah, their bench had all of their points. Buddy Hield comes in and just
20.
absolutely goes off.
29 points that the bench had before the starter scored.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I don't know. I mean, it was so weird whenever you think about it. And maybe we talked a little before we started potting here that maybe it's more so like how the Kings have it set up. Like Buddy Hield isn't starting for them.
Right.
So maybe that
And he's probably one of their 2-3 best players.
right. And the problem with Buddy Hield is he can just get hot and then it's like, what do you do then?
Mm-hmm.
And the Thunder are a good defensive team, but once he got hot, it was...
Yeah, because if he creates
trouble.
separation, he doesn't need much time to shoot. He's got a quick release. I'd like to have him on the Thunder. I always said that, but that's not happening. Yeah, Buddy Hield, 21 points. Justin Jackson, he's a rookie, 16 points. De'Aaron Fox, he's a rookie, 10 points. And then Zach Randolph goes off for 18, even though the Thunder were kind of torching him early. Then
He gets such weird buckets. Like when he just like kind of sort of hops and then drops it in.
He's got that
And it's-
old man game at this point.
It's gotten very strange.
He's
over the
tried
years.
stretching it out to 3 a little bit.
He really took advantage of Adams in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was like a huge point that that the Kings really took advantage of the Thunder. There was a lot of that in the third quarter was Adams on Randolph, and that was working for the Kings.
Well,
Yeah.
wasn't that like kind of what we had discussed last week was where like with Damian and Nurkic, where the point guard would kind of break stuff down and then just be like, here you go. And then like Adams was already out of position by that point and had tried to recover.
Kind of, but I mean, some of it was just where he was posting him up, or he would. I mean, it wasn't all of them. I mean, I thought that Randolph looked completely different in the third quarter than he did in that first half.
Adams didn't play a bad game. I mean, he had 14 points, 4 for 5 from the field, 6 for 6 from the line, which is encouraging from him.
Yeah.
I don't know what his percentage on the year is, but it's probably pretty good. He started a lot. We talked about it a lot. He started last year shooting a really good percentage, and that just kind of declined the rest of the way. We were kind of hoping he came to this season shooting free throws well, and he kind of has been. 5 steals for Adams.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job of reading passes, reading the play early in the play. But you're right. Zach Randolph took it to him a little bit in the third quarter. This is kind of jumping ahead a little bit. Billy Donovan stuck with Patrick Patterson in the fourth quarter till what? 3 minutes to go? Maybe 2.5?
He was in there for quite a while.
Because of Zach Randolph, I assume. Because he was worried that Zach Randolph was hurting Adams, which Patterson, he didn't do anything really. Did he score? He didn't. Oh, yeah. Okay, he had 5 points. He did hit that 3. Kind of forgot about that 3. Well, what's your level of panic right now, Rob? Because people on Twitter, you know how it is.
So we talked about this very thing on Monday whenever we did that normal pod. We said, what was your level of concern?
Right.
And I was a 3.
I think everyone said 3.
Yeah. Well, that's...
I was a 2.
Did you say 2?
Yeah.
Well, that has to be...
I've gone up to a 3.
Yeah, you would think... I mean,
yes, up 1 point.
I'm now at a 3.
That's a game that they have to win. That's a game that they've won. We're 10 games in or whatever it is.
Yeah, 10
but
games in.
They've dominated teams that they were supposed to beat, and they didn't. And so that's a little. I mean, that is concerning. So from a 3, I would probably go to a 5.
Yeah,
like it's still
does that much for you. I mean the Kings were 1-8. Their only win against the Mavericks, who have been, those are 2 of the probably 3 worst teams in the leagues to this point, right?
Well, the Mavericks, I would say are the worst team so far.
Yeah,
and I don't
although
know.
the Kings were right there with them. They were.
Yeah, and although the Mavs, they beat Washington at Washington. Was that last night? I think it was.
Yeah.
So
they're good again.
Yeah.
Well, also, doesn't that loss for the Wizards, that makes this one okay for us?
I don't.
Yeah.
No,
it's fine.
I think the situation's different, right? Because the Thunder coming into this game clearly struggling. They're 4-5. I think fans are starting to get a little, little antsy.
4 and 6.
4 and 6.
Well, they were 4-5 going into that game.
Okay,
yeah. So fans are getting antsy. They've lost close games. It's time to, you look at the score, 94-86. You would think that the Thunder were really good on defense. It's the offense again, which yes, it was the offense, and we're going to talk a lot about the offense. But the Kings scored 84 points in 3 quarters after the first quarter. That's not good. That's the Kings. They've been the worst. I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked this up, but I'm pretty sure they've been the worst offensive team in the NBA.
They are. Yeah, they're
84 points in 3 quarters, man.
I think they're averaging like 8, like I want to say like 87. I don't have it right in front of you, but I want to say they're like averaging 87 points a game so far.
Yeah,
well, and that's
like that.
Like before the game started, I predicted that we were going to win like 100-76 or something like that. I was a little off.
Yeah.
There's a smidge. But also, didn't they miss like their first 10 or 12 shots? It was 11?
They started out over
Jesus
11.
Christ.
Yeah.
And it wasn't us playing great defense.
They started out, they played the Wizards the game before that, and they started that game 0 for 9.
Jesus.
So, I mean, their starts.
So dude, that goes back to Brandon's point before the pod. Why isn't Buddy Hield starting for that team?
It's so strange to me. And Fox, why if you're a bad team, and Labissiere, why wouldn't you start some of these young guys that you would consider to be your future? Because you did sign Randolph, because you did sign George Hill. Yeah, George Hill's been
maybe
kind
when
of
they
garbage
signed them
year.
that they said, "Hey, you guys are starting," something like that.
One thing the Kings were doing, I think, is they were just, they were backdooring the hell out of the Thunder. They were showing them how to try. The Thunder looked completely. I mean, everything they were doing was without effort, without desire to win the game, which is so weird to see a lack of urgency with a team that has high expectations coming into the year. You're 4-5. You have a game that you could just blow out of the water if you wanted to, much like they did in that Chicago game when they were ready for a win. You could tell, and they took it to Chicago. You can do the same thing against the Kings. There's not much excuse for not playing hard in this position.
Well, and that's, to me, when we were talking on Monday about, your worry level versus your frustration level, like the frustration level is a lot higher now, I think, because of this game, a lot higher because of exactly what you're talking about. Like, it doesn't seem like they're trying to be better Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you
the
don't
sense of urgency.
You don't see the they're like just busting their asses out there. Like, it kind of seems like people are just kind of moseying around
Right.
at points, and it's just gotten weird.
The thing that actually brings me to something I want to talk about. I mean, this team looks a little joyless out there on the court right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just they're not enjoying the process of figuring out with one another, or if they don't have. Maybe it's a role defining thing. Maybe there's no defined roles on this team right now, and that needs to happen.
Well, it's probably not that much fun, right? I mean, you're
Well, sure, it's not fun.
4 and 6. There's growing pains that they're trying to work through, and so they're probably not having fun. They didn't. You look at.
But would you agree that when you play basketball that way, and it's just not showing, that urgency isn't showing, and you're not showing any evidence of even kind of trying new things.
Well,
trying to go for that extra rebound, trying to make that backdoor cut, trying to make that extra pass.
Well,
They're not doing that.
The weird part, what I find is weird, is that coming into the season, it was sort of like, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, those guys are gonna have so much fun this season, and so I think that's to your point that it doesn't look like they are, and they're not playing well right now, so it kind of makes sense. But I still, it would be nice to sort of still see them be a little bit more upbeat, trying to work through it.
You talking about like Melo, Paul George?
Yeah.
Paul George kind of has that look on his face typically, right? That he's just not he's just
even
kinda,
kill, kind of.
Yeah. But it's almost like a little.
He's a
sad.
very mellow person.
I don't like
Not
it.
so good.
I don't like it.
No, I mean, yeah. I guess people are coming after Melo right now, man.
Yeah.
They're
They
going
really
out-
are.
They're going. Is it deserved?
I mean, from last night's game, yeah. He took really, really, really bad shots last night.
It's almost like it's
He was,
getting
what,
worse.
4 for 17? And Paul George was 4 for 16, so that doesn't help
They
much.
combined 8 for 33. Those two.
But that's, I mean,
right.
he's just taking the worst shots. He'll get the ball, and then just instantly there's a guy right in front of his face. Like, hey, there's someone else. You can move the ball, do something.
So I watched the game. I watched quite a bit of the game back again today.
Why?
Just because I wanted to see what it was.
Right. You want to look at some other things.
Right. And so, but their shots are still. I mean, they're getting so many wide open shots that it's kind of like. I mean, is that something that's throwing them off? Like the looks that they're getting are so much different than they've seen.
Are they rhythm looks?
Yeah.
Do you think they are?
I thought they missed. I didn't count them, but of those 33, they made 8, like you guys said. A lot of those misses were open looks.
Yeah. You know, one thing I'm noticing, a lot of these open looks from 3 that they are getting, they're not just like right behind the 3-point line. They're a little too far back. You know what I mean? Like it's not natural. They're like in this awkward spot where they're about 3.5 feet, 4 feet behind the line, and maybe that's just not comfortable. It just seems like people are having that's where I disagree a little bit, that I don't think they are getting these rhythm jumpers really. I think that maybe it's them trying to adapt to Russell Westbrook and the way he plays, but right now I don't think Russell Westbrook is playing the way Russell Westbrook plays.
That's a great point. Yeah, he doesn't.
What do you like? So what would you want to see differently?
So last night I was really talking myself into an angle about how I think if I was ranking, I hate to use the word blame because I'm not panicking. I'm not saying this team's doomed, but
Right.
if I were, you know what I mean. If I were ranking it, I think I go Russ number 1. And I think the reason is because this is his team, right? He's been here. These guys are new guys. It's his job to lead. It's his job to play like he plays, to be as good as he is, and to show them the way, to direct traffic on offense. Not only is he the leader, is this his team, he's the point guard. Direct traffic, get guys in spots that they need to be, make plays. And I just don't feel like he's putting the pressure on the defense this year like we're used to seeing Russell Westbrook do. He's walking the ball up the court a lot. We've talked about the slow pace in the past few pods. A lot of that has to do with Melo. He doesn't really run up the court. But just because Melo doesn't run up the court doesn't mean Russell Westbrook shouldn't run the ball up the court. It sounds like a pretty nice luxury if you have Melo trailing the offense and no one picks him up, and Russell Westbrook puts the pressure on the defense, and there's Melo just waiting for a catch and shoot
collapses
3.
with him, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a really good point because we have seen the pace for this team is incredibly low, which it seems really weird because you have all of these guys that are athletic, and you're just relying on a half-court game whenever it doesn't really seem like you're sort of using all of that you can get out of these guys.
It's almost like they're seeking out that half-court game.
Right. No, I think that is what we've seen so far. And I brought this up on the last pod, and I don't remember what game it was before that they mentioned Russ was making a conscious effort to slow down. Like he was trying to not play as fast as he has in years past.
Do you think that when he says that, I mean, is that just with the ball? Is that just offensively? That's just
right. I think it's everything. Yeah. Does
it have anything to do with conserving his energy as the season progresses?
I don't think so. I think it's more so. I think it has more so to do with just trying to fit those other guys in. Yeah. And like you said, Carmelo's not running up and down he's not going to be sprinting up and down the court. But there's Paul George, Jeremy Grant, Robertson.
They're capable. Those are strengths of those guys.
Right. All of those guys can get up and run. And so it is. I think that's one of the points of emphasis that they should be. That's one of those stats that they should be looking at is pace. And why is it so low?
Right. To me, it's hard. Like if Russ's point and slowing down is trying to get those other guys going, that seems the opposite of what he should be doing. I think to get those guys going, play how you play.
Right.
Yeah.
You know how to play that way, man. Russ, you do it really damn good. That's what sets you apart from other players in the league.
Yeah.
So do that. Why not just do that? Is it fair what I'm saying right now about him? Like, questioning his leadership almost? Is that fair?
Well, so Russ playing better is obviously going to have a huge impact on the other guys playing better. Like those guys are getting good looks every game. Mm-hmm. They're not knocking him down.
Yeah, I mean,
now.
He's still leading the league in assists.
But I think more so it's the style of play that you're talking about, which for whatever reason, whatever it is that whatever they're trying to do on offense, it's not, get up and run a bunch, and it's just weird, especially as good as they are on defense. You mentioned the steals for Adams. Like it's really weird to see that pace number be so low.
They lead the NBA as a team in steals per game. They're right up there in blocks. So you'd think they'd have all these live ball turnovers that they would make defenses pay with, especially having Russell Westbrook there, and it's just not happening. Russ is shooting 32.6% on pull-up jumpers.
Ugh.
Wow.
Which isn't like much worse than what he did last year, but to me, it should be better with this personnel.
That's
That's
kind of what I was thinking. Is like you would feel it, like the whole idea was like, hey, now your shots are supposed to be easier for all three of you. Like you should be able to get to your spots and kind of have an easier go at things than you have in the past. But I think it's kind of what we've all been saying. It's them figuring out how to do this together and changing the style of their play with each other, right? Like,
right.
It's hard for them all to, especially Melo, I think, because he's been doing this the longest.
He's so stuck in his ways, it seems.
Very, very, this is how I do things. And it's
very, very,
very.
And maybe it's unfair of me to be talking about Russ as much as I am when, you look at the games that Carmelo's played recently and you're like, dude, when he's done it so much the past few games where he catches the ball, he goes into ISO mode, which is fine, by the way, which is fine. That's fine. I don't care. He makes one move. He doesn't beat his defender. And instead of just passing out of that and keeping the offense going, not even resetting, but just keep the ball moving, keep the defense moving, try to create some lanes for the offense to score.
So what do you chalk that up to? Is it not trusting the guys that he's out there with, or?
I think that's how he likes to play. And that's how – I think that's what he finds fun about basketball. And that's totally unfair of me to say because I can't – I don't know how he thinks.
Right.
But just when you watch him, that's how he plays now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's been doing is just such instantly shooting whenever he gets the ball. And it's like, dude, wait. Like, you could try
I don't even care about him shooting as much as he's shooting, really. I just want them to be better shots.
Yeah.
So he's shooting 41.9% on catch-and-shoot shots. Not bad. What did he shoot last year? I think, this was a big stat. I think it was around 44% on catch-and-shoots. I think that was on threes, though. This is just flat-out catch-and-shoot jumpers. So it would be nice if that goes up. Paul George is at 38.4%, to your point, Rob.
Yeah.
Earlier. That's got to get better.
Yeah.
Because, he's going to get a lot of those.
Yeah, you would expect that to come up. He struggled. That number is definitely going to come up. He struggled at the beginning of the year. He was not.
Right.
He was trying to find his way. He was not playing.
And he had been shooting better leading up to last night.
Well, especially that last week. He was shooting better from three. I think all of his shooting numbers were up. especially the last week that we just had. But I would still, you got to expect that to continue to come up, and as he gets more comfortable. I mean, he's too good of a shooter, and like Jacob was saying on the last pod, when he's open, like it's just money. He's gonna make that
a fact. Yeah.
And it still just goes back to Russ for me. Like, he's the one that has to get that defense moving. He has to get them on their heels, because if he does, forces not only the defense to adjust and to move to what he's doing, but also your own teammates to move. It forces that. I mean, because if he's starting runs into his own teammates, I mean, that's going to get annoying after a while, and he's going to yell at them. He's going to be like, you got to move, you got to cut.
Well, and like kind of on the point of him running into own teammates, and a lot of his turnovers lately seem to just be like him like dribbling and then the ball just comes out of his hands.
He's not handling the ball very well, is he?
And I don't know if it's just that they're uncomfortable, or maybe the training camp did have an effect on him. I mean, it was short anyways, and then he wasn't there for most of it.
Did he play basketball this summer?
I don't know. Yeah, he did. He did do that.
I mean, I don't know.
With Melo.
Yeah.
At the pickup games.
But was that it?
That might have been it.
No, like, you're right, though. The ball's slipping out of his hands a lot.
Yeah.
And he's kind of forcing bad passes, like putting players in bad positions.
Awkward. Like there was that one that he just threw out of bounds over Grant's head or something, I think.
Maybe it's a case of overthinking. Maybe all of these guys are doing it.
Yeah, probably
Well,
so.
didn't you say that, like, the half-court or halftime observations last night, you said stop thinking and play basketball or whatever? Like that, to me, yeah. That's.
I mean, I think you can attribute some of this to that, because especially Russ, you can see when he's, I mean, it's like he has an idea of what he wants to do before he crosses half court. And that's what he's got his mindset. That's what he's going to do. And then he'll have a wide open elbow jumper that he'll be like, oh, I'm wide open. You know, like pump faking, puts himself in, like a bad rhythm. And then he ends up taking the shot and he misses it, because he's not just playing the game.
Right. He's not doing it naturally like he did last year, where he was just like, this is me and I'm going for it.
Right.
Because I think it's a lot of what we've been talking about, where it's like, okay, well, I have to get these guys involved. How do I do that? Instead of like, I'm just going to win this game. And I think if he had more of that mindset, people might criticize him, just like they always have, of being a ball hog or whatever. But
yeah, he's over that. I mean,
who cares? He's never cared about
yeah, and
that.
that's never going to
So
stop.
like, just do that again, right? But like in my head, like I'm actually happy that they lost that game. Not happy that they lost, but like I think it's good that it happened, right? Because like to me, this team, like they have enough talent to win those kind of games just by pure talent.
You'd think.
You would think. Right. It didn't happen.
So you watch the Kings.
You would think. But the thing is, like, if that just kept happening and they were like, oh, we won this close game, everybody was excited about it. Hey, check it out how they're winning these clutch games. Then all of this stuff that's wrong would just be kind of looked over.
Yeah,
like,
that's a great point.
You know, whenever people win games, like if say they would have come back and won that, we wouldn't be talking about most of this. We'd be like, how cool was that? And so now, like, it's kind of what like Russ said. You brought this up earlier, like his post-game interview where he said, I love these type of games. You know, like this is the kind of stuff that brings us together. And this is the kind of thing I've talked about last season when they went through losing streaks. These are the times that they learn, like, oh, this is what we need to fix. Here's what's wrong. And now we actually have to take action to do it because it's costing us wins.
What's weird, though, is I feel like these games have happened. There's been like 3, 4, 5 of these games already.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I think it takes a lot of those.
Yeah.
And it always has in the past.
To your point, and in Russ's defense, like he took the blame for what happened.
Yeah, tell people that maybe missed his post-game interview, kind of what he was saying.
So I mean, he just took the blame for it. He was saying that a lot of the issues that they have right now are on him. He needs to play better, and that would affect how everyone else, that'll have a positive effect on everybody else. And I was really good to see, because as a fan, you're feeling terrible after watching that game.
Right.
And I think it's nice seeing him take accountability for, some of these shortcomings that the Thunder are having. I think that's what you want to see from your best player.
So I didn't actually see the video of him doing. How was his attitude when he said that? Like,
it was normal. I mean,
it was normal, annoyed with the press.
Was
attitude.
he still annoyed, like, at the question?
He actually was not. He was not. He was
okay.
Only the question that somebody asked him about the flagrant foul. Like, they were basically just what happened on that play.
He got mad about that.
He should have.
He was just like, I'm not going to talk about one play. I'm not going to go back and forth with the refs.
It also seems like that he just doesn't like specific media members, and I don't know who they are because the cameras aren't on the media members.
Right.
You can just hear the voice, so you can kind of pick out sometimes like who's asking the question. But
I thought he did okay though. I mean,
did. It was better than he's been
after like that game where they played terrible.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I thought he did fine. But so a lot of what has come off of that game, and even before the Kings game, was how much blame goes on Billy Donovan.
Right.
We talked a lot about Russ. Where did you have Billy Donovan in your list? Did you?
He would be number 2 for me.
So, but is it so? How much? I think there's sort of a fine line, and like, how much blame can you really put on Billy Donovan?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I think that comes down to the defining the roles thing, right? I think I tweeted out last night how similar Russ, Paul George, and Carmelo's stats are right now. The minutes played,
Super crazy.
the shot attempts per game, the points per game. They're just the
Identical,
shot percentages almost identical. I don't think they can do that. I don't think that's how. I mean, I think it's one thing if you're winning games that way. If you're playing in a style that is, well, it's whoever's open, that's who's going to shoot it. That's not how this team's playing right now.
Yeah.
It's, like I just don't see that from them. So I think, honestly, what I think needs to happen, I think Melo does need to take that back seat. And what this goes completely contrary to if you look at the numbers, because in the Thunder's 4 wins, Melo's been the leading scorer in maybe all of them. He's taken the most shots in those games. Russ has taken the least shots in those games of the big 3 and scored the least amount of points. And in the losses, Russ takes the most shots, scores the most points. So maybe what I'm saying is complete BS, but I think it just makes sense if you have those roles defined like that. Similar to, our Justin, he's brought up before how this team kind of reminds him of the Heat when the Heat formed their little super group, and Chris Bosh took that back seat a little bit, and it becomes lethal. If you're so worried about Russ, you're so worried about Paul George, you're so worried about LeBron, you're so worried about Dwayne Wade. Oh, well, here's Chris Bosh who can just snipe you.
It's completely different, though.
I know it's
like when you think of Chris Bosh and you want Carmelo to do that, like those two guys.
Well, I'm not saying play like Chris Bosh.
No, I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying
asking him to take
the ego of having to say, like you're gonna have to step back here. Like you're gonna we need to have 2 other guys step up, and you need to actually step back.
But what's weird is the difference is that Carmelo's no longer in his prime. Chris Bosh was in the dead of his prime.
Absolutely.
So what I think has to happen for that to happen is that somehow Melo has to come to that realization by himself. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they could maybe Inception. Can we Inception him? Take him through a couple dream
You're right,
stages.
though. I mean,
but
has
if
to
he
accept
decides
that.
and goes, "Hey, I'll come off the bench," or I don't know if it's come off the bench, or I'll pull back and maybe just start. Maybe he doesn't even have to say anything about it, but just start doing moving the ball around kind of thing.
He's not shooting the ball that well, and he's not getting. I mean, he is getting open looks, and he's not really knocking them down. And he's taking He's taking the most bad shots on the team by far.
Yeah,
by far.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys think about this? Touches per game. Russ 90.2. He's the point guard. Obviously, he's going to touch the ball the most. Melo's second at 59.9, and Paul George is at 48.1. 11 and a half less touches than Carmelo Anthony, and I know Carmelo's playing with the bench a lot.
That's the key, though.
But still, I don't think it's acceptable.
So do you want to see a change there?
Yes. What do you mean, like with the bench? Who's playing with the bench?
Well, yeah, that would be the key there. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess I do. I think I'm ready for that. I know that Carmelo's done a good job with the bench. Mm-hmm. To this point, he wasn't very good against the Kings, but I think that if it means getting the ball in Paul George's hands more, it needs to happen, and he needs to have the ball more. He's too good. He earns it on defense, and he's that good of an offensive player that you need to see what he can do. He hasn't been given the opportunity to make plays, and he needs that opportunity. I mean, 48 touches a game, so he's going to take 20 shots a game. So that's almost half of his touches he's going to shoot it on, where you'd like to see that not be the case.
Which, if that was kind of the case for you, if like half the time you're like, oh shit, I got to shoot because otherwise I'm not going to get it, right? Like it's almost like the only times you get the ball, you better be shooting, otherwise you're not going to get those chances again.
See, the problem with that is that personality-wise, you have Paul George, who is going to just take a backseat.
Yeah, he's a
compared
natural
to Russ
deferrer.
And Carmelo, that's who more so is gonna take the backseat. But I agree, he shouldn't be.
No,
like he's the second best player on this team, and
some nights he'll be the best player on this team with how good he is defensively.
true.
That's why going back to what was it you that brought it up about Melo, or you, Jason, brought it up. Melo having that realization of, whoa, I need to chill out a little bit. I need to take a back seat because when I'm taking these bad shots, this does no good for the team.
Yeah, but will Melo realize that? Because this is what Melo's been.
Do you think he just
all the time
blacks that? He's like, nope, not an option. Not an option. No chance that I am hurting the team.
Probably so. Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, that's how he thinks.
Yeah, and
for sure.
And the thing is he can get – the difference is, too, it's not like a Serge Ibaka type situation where you don't call plays for him. He's going to knock down shots when you get him the ball, which Melo can do. Because you'll also have games where Melo gets really hot and you just start feeding him. That doesn't happen with Serge Ibaka, This is bigger offensively than Serge Ibaka. I'm not saying go to that Serge Ibaka role, but I'm just saying cool it a little bit. You know what I mean? He has to understand that he's not the best player on this team. He's not the second best player on this team.
Yeah, he was. There's just stretches where, I mean, he kind of. It's what we talked about with Russ too, where he's just going to keep shooting. And it doesn't matter. He was 1 for 8 in the first half, I think.
And he's the type that when he's missing, he's going to keep shooting even more because he's like, I got to make one.
Yeah.
That's kind of how
Shooters
it is.
got to shoot, man. So
back to Billy. You brought up Billy and how much is on Billy. Is there any chance that he's a little in over his head?
I think so. It seems like it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the problem whenever Billy had his post-game press or interview, whatever you want to call it, after the game against the Kings, I mean, he says the same stuff all the time, and maybe that's good. I think they're at times that's going to be really good. Yeah, you always have that level guy who is never too high, is never too low, which is good. But there's times where it just seems like you have to yell or something. Change something up.
Slap Kyle Singler in the face.
Did he seem a little annoyed last night to you post game though? He seemed a little irked. I
think he was annoyed by the questions, but I didn't get the feeling that he was annoyed by the actual game, and that was my biggest issue. With him.
I think he could see through the questions that they were almost questioning him and his ability. I think with a lot of those post game questions, there was one question, what do you do in practice to, kind of I don't know.
One of the questions
tell them to move the ball more, pass the ball more.
Yeah, one of the questions, what do you do, or how do you make this better? And that's where he was like, well, we're gonna practice.
Yeah,
and we're gonna move the ball around in practice or whatever, and try and get better that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I didn't love his answers. No. I don't know what I expected him to say.
But maybe that has something to do with your mood after the game. It could have something to do.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I mean, I think that he definitely deserves some blame here, and I think that it is his job to kind of define roles and say this is what we're going to do, and say, Russ, you need to be more aggressive. You need to play more aggressive, and not say, he'll figure it out. That's what I like about Russ. He's so good, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, you got to talk to him too.
I mean,
man.
I think he is probably talking to these guys.
Nope.
In practice,
and saying,
"Hey guys, let's move the ball."
He sits over there on his iPad.
So I don't
and
think
Zillow.
to me, again, we're 10 games or whatever in. It's gonna take a bit. This is gonna be hard. It's not an easy thing to be like, hey guys, let's just go.
I also think it's
NBA teams.
fair to question.
And
when the team starts 4-6. I mean, there's a middle ground here. You don't have to freak out.
Yeah.
It's not just two options: panic or we're fine.
Yeah, there's a gray area where we are right now.
Right.
Where it's
I think there's a great chance that we're gonna look back in 2 months or something, and this is going to be, we're going to remember when we lost to the Kings?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, remember when we signed Kyle Singler?
Oh, no. But do you guys remember when he signed? No, but we're going to look back in probably 2 months, and it's going to be I can't believe this team lost to the Kings.
Right.
They're going to be so good. Definitely not saying anything. There's a lot of crazy stuff being said, this is what you're losing because you have Carmelo.
Right.
Nobody's ever going to.
Yeah.
Billy Donovan is not the coach that can win with a team those are all crazy.
It's absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
Yeah, it's 10 games in, like you said, Jason.
And I don't know. It's just I just don't understand how this team everybody thinks Billy Donovan's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's look what he's done. He's done really well.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good track record.
Like
but I think the difference is that he has more egos now to deal with than he's ever had before.
And I understand that criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get what you were saying, where it's like, hey, can he deal with these this amount of ego? Like, because he came from college.
Well, he seems like a perfect guy. Like when Kevin Durant left,
Yeah.
It was like he was kind of perfect because he's never like coming from college where he had to work a lot of different players, obviously coming in and out. And this was, you had a young team that you thought, so he was going to be able to sort of work with those guys. Well, now you have 2 veterans coming in to play with Russ. So I think it's fair to question it.
Right.
But I think Billy will be fine, and I by no means do I think that this team is screwed because they have Billy Donovan.
No. I just think a big part of being an NBA coach is having the ability to speak to your players, like not just say words at them. I'm saying like connect with them and speak to them where they understand and they are with you. And I think just because you're a good coach doesn't mean that is guaranteed going to happen.
And he's shown since really that initial press conference where they announced him with Sam Presti, like you could tell, like he's about family, and like he definitely is not going to have any problem connecting with players and stuff like that. And so
it's more on basketball. I mean, it's about the basketball.
Yeah, and that's more so what it's going to come down to.
Do you think that? Obviously, I think this is down the road if this is any kind of possibility. But is he on any kind of a leash this season? Any kind of a leash? Is there anything he could do that Sam Presti would fire him mid-season? Anything this team could do?
I wouldn't think so.
No.
Like, I mean,
it's kind of crazy to think about given the situation with Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, the contract situation.
I mean, say I guess this team just stayed at or under 500, and you're at like the All-Star break. But at that point, would you fire him or would you move Melo or something, or would you try to move PG?
No trade clause, bro. He's be like, I'm staying here and I'm taking all the shots.
Too bad, bro. This is my team.
But to that point, Brandon, you went 4-0 for this week of games. Like, so
in the hot seat.
I mean,
I am in the hot seat, man. I'm 1 point away.
So, like, I think everybody, and you brought this up in the last pod, like, they're still favored and they were big favorites, 10 points or whatever it was, against the Kings. Like, everyone is expecting them to win, and they're not.
Yeah.
So I think there is a case where if it just seems like it's not working out, maybe to Jason's point, maybe you do rather you start moving players instead. I don't know that I would buy into that. Maybe it is the coach. I think you would have to have like players complaining about Billy Donovan, which I don't think will happen. But they would have to be vocal in the media about
say they had a players only meeting and it suddenly was all. It was kind of curious, like what's going on in there, and
it would take
they're not
like
responding clearly to him or something like far into the season.
It would
far-fetched.
I think he's got a ways to go.
It would take Russ going into Sam Presti's office and saying,
that would get it.
Well, that's done. Like he's fired that moment.
It is funny. One thought that crossed my mind last night, and not that I think this is true or not, but it was just a little hypothesis that I had, is if Presti made the trade for Melo because he thought that it made the team for sure better down the road this year, gave him, better chance to win, or if he did it more to speak to Russ, be that final thing for Russ to get him to resign.
So now he resigned, and now it's like, now maybe he second guesses it. I mean,
like maybe what kind of had him make that trade, pull the trigger on that trade, was the fact that I know Russ and Carmelo like each other. They played a little bit this summer. I just want to show Russ that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Again, I traded for Paul George. Let's go get another one.
Right.
I don't know. It's just
maybe it could be.
This is just a fun little hypothesis.
Yeah, I don't know. So if you had to guess, like right now, I think we all had the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. I've not come off of that. Have you?
I won't come off.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good.
Still at a 3, bro.
72 games left, man.
Still at a 3.
That's what's crazy. When you think about it like that, you're like, okay, 72. Like, players this good aren't just going to be okay with being this bad.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, but they may not be here. That's the point, though.
What do you mean?
Like if you continue
you think
to
they might
struggle,
die?
They might, or they could maybe get traded, or something like that. Like, I don't think it's crazy to think. What do you mean, who?
Who might get traded?
Well, it's kind of like what I think he's saying. What I was saying.
You think there's a chance?
If I was saying, if they're terrible at around the trade deadline, they're like, well, you got to get them out of here. Like while you can, you got to get something.
Probably
so. But I think exactly what you said. These guys aren't okay with this, right? They're not. They're not.
Weird if
they're not like just going to practice like
Melo is.
It's cool, man. Like,
Melo's
let's
like,
just keep doing this.
Melo's like, I'm shooting 19 times a game, dude. I'm thrilled.
It doesn't matter where he goes. He's going to shoot a bunch of shots. So.
Oh, what if he went to Sacramento? 31 shots a game.
How
He'd
much?
probably come off the bench.
How much do we win by if he was with Sacramento last night?
Oh,
That's
whoa.
not.
Nice
That's
one.
not fair.
I have one more thing I want to bring up about the depth. And I think the Thunder's bench has been actually one of their top 3 bright spots of the season. But last night, they weren't very good. They're at that 9-man rotation. They brought Ferguson a little bit, I think, mostly to guard Buddy Hield when he got going a little bit, but he wasn't in for very long. Played 4 minutes, 42 seconds. Are you concerned about the actual depth? As in, if the bench is underperforming, not playing that well, does Billy have those guys that he can just kind of go to, be like, well, Patterson's not playing well. I'm going to go with Collison. Ugh. You know what I mean?
That's not.
Abrinas isn't playing well. Abrinas played 5 minutes and 18 seconds against the Kings. What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. It's super weird, especially whenever you think like they've been really good on defense and really bad on offense. Like that's a guy you should be able to.
Shouldn't Abrinas be the guy?
Yeah, you should be able to put that guy in and be like, just get us something.
Yeah.
Just shoot the ball.
Because he actually has the highest plus minus on the team
Yeah.
for the season.
Right. Yeah, I brought that up on the
Yeah.
last pod, which is really weird because I mean I think it's more in plus minus is never put too much stock into
Sure.
minus obviously, but
But over a course of a season, when you're looking at it, I mean, I think it can speak a little bit.
yeah,
It
10
carries
games,
a little,
10
carries a
games so
little
far,
weight.
but yeah, I mean I agree, but he's not playing well, even though that that number looks good because he is the top of the team right now in plus minus. Like he's just not playing well. He's not shooting the ball well. He's
No.
not getting enough shots. I think you can make the case he's not being utilized correctly.
Right. I was going to say, and maybe it goes back to that. And the
but
whole
I brought
team
up
output.
on the last pod that he should have. Like, I'd like to see him playing with the starters more.
Oh yeah, right.
That was the worst lineup last night. Was whenever they inserted Abrinas in there with Adams, Russ, Paul George, and
That,
that was
just goes to show you have horrible ideas.
yeah, it was a terrible idea.
I think
But
they're
part of it
just-
comes down to it's weird that Abrinas is not playing well. I think.
They're just struggling right now, man. What's going on with the officiating in the NBA?
Holy shit,
let's-
is it bad?
Let's talk about
That what was the flagrant? That's not a flagrant foul.
So
First, he barely.
They find Billy, they find Russ, they find Paul George.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this happened right before I got here.
Wow.
About the officiating. I don't know if it. Yeah, I think it was for the Kings game. They upheld the flagrant for Carmelo.
How?
That flagrant on Russ, man.
It was so ridiculous. He barely, if at all, hit him. I guess with his shooting hand. Did he do that?
And is he supposed to keep his hand up? You
yeah.
know, like
that guy dove into his space. That's a foul.
yeah,
That's a foul.
It's a foul. That was just an awful.
It doesn't
call.
make an.
But it is so frustrating that, just like the Carmelo thing, like they're taking points off the board
Yes.
because not only are you making a terrible call, but that's also with a team that's struggling to score. Like, give us our points,
Yeah.
knock it off.
Although
We
Russ,
need them all.
We need those points, bro.
one bright spot from the Kings game is that Russ raised his free throw percentage to 60%.
Hey,
He's up there.
We're getting there.
One more thing about officiating. I had no idea this new continuation rule.
Oh, you didn't know about that?
No.
We talked about that before.
Did we?
Yeah,
My memory's
it's the
terrible.
the Harden fix.
Yeah.
Well, no, that. I'm talking about when players, they're not given continuation as easy
Oh,
now.
Yeah.
wasn't that the idea of the Harden thing?
No, I don't. The Harden thing was more like the next.
If you didn't gather the shot, then you don't get a shooting foul.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole idea.
Well,
of
it's
it.
like seeking contact was the Harden thing. It was like going through rip, and it's like the rip move 2.0. This is a different thing I'm talking about. It's like when players have picked up their dribble, they're about to take their 2 steps and a foul occurs. They're calling it on the ground this year. They're not giving them that continuation. It's kind of hurting the Thunder a little bit. There's been a few instances where they haven't gotten free throws over the whole deal.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Twitter questions?
Twitter questions.
do it.
I'm gonna need you to read these because mine's screwed up.
Okay, I got you. I've never done this before, though. I'm
I know.
scared. We
Sorry
didn't
about
do
that.
the tweet, 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 tweet. All right. Thunderous obstinacy. The Carmelo experiment seemed to be working well with the bench. Not so much anymore. Time to get PG going with Ray, Pat, Alex, and Grant. We talked about this.
Yeah, we've talked about this quite a bit actually, and absolutely. Like I think Paul George. I thought that Paul George would get quite a few minutes with the bench before, and it was a lot of Carmelo, and then it was kind of Russ, and now it's Carmelo and Paul George.
They did a little Russ against the Kings with the bench, I'm pretty sure.
They did.
Yeah.
Just a very small amount, but yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, I think Paul George needs to get more time, and that's one way that you can get the ball into his hands more.
Yeah.
Is to have him playing with the bench.
Totally agree, and play with things a little bit. I know that Melo's been pretty good with the bench for the year, but play with things a little bit. Try to get some different energy going here because the energy is not good right now.
They definitely need a spark, and like you all just said, like Paul George having the ball on his hand is a great thing. Anytime you can do that, I think it's great.
Boomtown. Would OKC do better with a coach that's more assertive like Tibbs or Pop? I get the feeling that Billy Donovan is a timid little bitch when talking to his superstars.
I think a lot
Pop,
of teams.
sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams would do better with Pop.
Everybody would do better with Pop.
Not Tibbs.
I don't want Tibbs.
No.
Because he's so loud every game.
He's the penguin.
That's the whole game that's all you hear.
It's true.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
But Pop is a welcome coach to anyone.
I'm with you, Jason, though. I can't negatively react to Billy Donovan to the fullest extent just yet. I mean,
what about somebody like Rick Carlisle, though?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would be.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's twin. I would take him in the heart.
Yeah.
I like Rick Carlisle because he's just not. He'll do whatever. He doesn't care. Like a couple games ago, his closing lineup was like 4 power forwards.
Yeah.
Like 4 power forwards and a point guard.
I like it.
All right, Gerard White, or is it Jared White?
Let's go, Gerard.
What do you say?
I change it up each week, I think.
Would Greg Monroe be a good potential buyout candidate for OKC to sign?
I actually was thinking about this whenever that trade happened. I was like, well, I don't know why the Suns would keep him because, I mean, they've got Tyson Chandler. They got to buy out one
Alex
of them, right?
Lynn, Marquise Chris.
Yeah, they're just like,
Dragon
let's
Bender.
get all the centers.
Yeah, so I think it's going to happen. Either Greg Monroe or Tyson Chandler is going to get bought out.
And
Who would you guys rather have out of those two?
Tyson Chandler.
Tyson Chandler for
Same. Greg Monroe's a better offensive player probably.
But they do need. I mean, obviously. I mean, it would be nice to have something more than. I guess we'll use Dakari Johnson or Nick Collison.
So if they did buy out Greg Monroe, you'd be like, yeah, let's go for it.
Probably so.
I would too. Let's get Cantor again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we play the Knicks, and they're going to be screwed if we got Greg Monroe.
Justin Jacobson asks, would the Thunder be better off if Presti never made the Carmelo trade? We had a ton of questions that were basically this exact same thing.
The answer is no.
Yeah, I still want to.
I'm not willing to say yes.
Yeah, you got to give it more time.
Yeah, more time. Luis Fuentes asks, does it seem like the refs are against the Thunder with those horrible flagrant calls towards Westbrook and the ejection on Anthony?
Russ brought that
Correct.
up too.
Correct. They are against us.
Russ brought that up too. He said that he feels like they call games differently for the Thunder players, and so I don't know.
I think with the way this team's playing, I don't want to put any attention on the refs, like as if like they're a reason that they're playing this way. But it has been a little weird.
Doesn't help.
It
Yeah, you're
definitely
right.
hasn't helped. Correct.
Todd Little, the most concerning thing for me is Russ. 2 games in a row, he's gotten visibly irritated early, and it's killed his play and sucked the fun out of the team. Is he going to stop doing that? How long will PG and Melo feel about that? Wait, how will PG and Melo feel about that being a regular occurrence? He really used his 280 characters. Yeah, this kind of talks about what I was bringing up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing that. He's setting that. I think that goes back to his leadership. It's on him to set the tone for the team and say, "Follow me. Everything is all right."
Well, and I think another thing about Russ too. We've talked about this. That was great. We've talked about this in past years with Russ. Is good attitude Russ. Bring it back, man. Bring back happy Russ.
He's
so much better when he's happy Russ.
What's the deal? I mean, he's been a little like.
Well, he's been pissed
angry
off since the day after he signed his
You
contract.
think it is just the stress of having to make sure it works? Like, this is on him to make sure it works, right? He's, like we said, he's the point guard. He's the catalyst to making everything easier for everybody else. And he's done that in a few games, and he's been really bad in some others.
Maybe he's not getting a lot of sleep at night because baby no.
That's
that
also fair.
could be a thing.
But I think that this is what makes great players.
I don't know how kids work, but
this is what makes great players, though, is the ability to do this. You know, to be able to make these guys better and show that you can work with these guys. He's got to be able to do it. Ben McKenzie, I'm panicking. Am I allowed to?
No, not yet.
I think he's allowed
quit
to.
it.
Yeah.
He asked nicely.
Well, that's
Yeah,
true.
you gotta allow the guy to.
You
panic.
flipped me.
Zach Weber 33. He's got a number in his name. Thoughts on the Eric Bledsoe trade? All right, an NBA
like
question. I like it for the Bucks.
For the Bucks, yeah. Not.
Yeah, the Bucks had to anything the Bucks got that was a plus.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
So are they going to slide Brogdon to the 2, probably? Middleton at the 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Snell from the
I
bench.
still,
That's probably what
I don't love the fit. I love that the Bucks are just kind of, they're doing something. They're trying to add to it. And Greg Monroe is not, I mean, coming off the bench. And it's,
Well, they've been trying to get rid of him for a long time, and this is like the perfect scenario for them to do that. Is that which a lot of people have been like, I don't know why the Suns didn't get more out of this deal. And it's
Right.
like, well, Bledsoe obviously like forced their hand, and like all of their leverage is out the window. Like,
Yeah.
of course they have to take kind of whatever they can get. They got a first round pick, and
And a second-round pick.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until later in
Cool.
the day.
And then Greg Monroe, I guess. I don't know why but
I think,
that was just like a great way for the Bucks to offload him, and I think that was smart of them.
you know who it might help the most is Middleton.
Yeah.
It might really open things up for Middleton to be able to just catch and shoot some shots, which would be good for the Bucks. I want to see them compete because I want to see Antetokounmpo in the playoffs.
He's so good.
Against LeBron,
Dude,
against
he's
some of these guys.
such a
You know,
damn beast.
he had a play the other night. I was watching their game. Oh, against the Cavs,
Yeah.
where he drove the lane. There's 2 guys between him and the rim, full verticality, good defense, and he just reached over and finger rolled it in over. It was just like, what can you do? There's
can do
nothing you can
nothing.
do. The Thunder Report asks, is it time to get the OK3 together and set up a pecking order? No way Melo would come off the bench. Does losing Domas come back to haunt us?
No.
no.
Let's see what
I
Rob's.
don't get that one. No. Absolutely not.
I do. I've been talking about the pecking order, though, a little bit.
I don't think that wouldn't hurt.
I mean, I don't want to take away from them where they can't play the game naturally.
Right.
I still want them who, if you're open, take the shot. If you're not open, don't take the shot. But I think there should be some more defined roles, as I've said a million times on this podcast. All right, we have 2 similar questions here between Andy Adams and Clark Matthews. Andy Adams said, how long before we quit accepting the excuse they're going to figure it out and accept that actual change needs to happen? And then Clark Matthews says, it's still early enough that you can make the excuse that the Thunder haven't gelled yet. What's discouraging is that it doesn't seem like they're trying to build cohesion. They play like the we got next guys at the gym. I like that one. He's right. That's kind of how they have been playing.
Yeah. I mean, they've been kind of playing just, I'm gonna take turns shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the excuse of like it's gonna take time is gonna stay around until there's been time to have been taken.
But this again goes back to there's a middle ground here, man.
Exactly.
Like, you know, like they need to show that they want to.
Yeah,
And
it goes back to the effort thing that we
Yeah.
talked about earlier. Like if they're not showing like in games that they're busting their ass to win, that's the one thing we've always had.
What's
at least
a realistic timeline then, before when you start to really be concerned?
10 more games, I'll be real concerned. If they're 8-12, I'll be really concerned. I mean, the thing is like, especially when you watch that Kings game, in the past few games, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. There's no cutting. There's zero ball movement. Like it's not even about the zipping the ball around. I know the Thunder are never going to do that,
Right.
but it's about when you have the ball, the players that don't have the ball running to the open spots on the floor,
moving.
yeah, coming to the ball, doing what is necessary to score,
Yeah.
and they're not doing it.
No,
Zero backdoor cuts, man. One thing, this goes back to Russ. I'm just ranting on Russ today, but he doesn't know how to play off the ball. He has no idea how to play off the ball. Maybe he does, and he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he doesn't like it. Yeah, I
But-
would think that's
but,
probably what
like
it is.
when he gives the ball up, he just kind of walks away from the ball and he stands.
Yeah, I noticed that in preseason.
never-
I really hoped that he would stop, but
He never goes to the basket on a cut, which you would think he could be one of the most lethal cutters in
Right.
the NBA,
sure.
if he wanted to be. That's where it's on Donovan to set up a play, a little backdoor play for Russ, something like that to get him going, get the offense moving a little bit.
Yeah, because there's other guys on this team that can make plays.
Yes.
That doesn't always have to be on Russ.
You got to get a little creative. You can't just expect these guys to figure it out themselves. That's where it is on Donovan.
yeah.
Triplone asks, if you could choose between this Thunder team or last year's team, plus Raymond Felton and Pat, which would you choose? This one.
This
Yeah.
one for sure.
Yeah, definitely this one.
This one has Paul George.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, even if you don't want Carmelo, like, give me Paul George.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, I said it last podcast. He leads the NBA in deflections by a mile. And
So good defensively.
yeah, he's
So
so
good
good on
offensively.
defense. I'm impressed every single game. Zach Gowen, last one. Do you think Billy is man enough to look players in the eye and be blunt? If not, how can you coach these stars if you can't be honest? I guess that's what it's about, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can.
You man enough, Billy?
Right?
You listening?
I mean, I
You
feel
man
like
up.
he can. He's done it.
Has he?
I think a better question really is,
You should have wrote in. You have a better one?
well, just to help that one.
It's a
Is-
supporting question.
Well, is really like his personality style. Does it lend itself to being able to coach these guys?
To be a
or
hard
not?
ass?
Yeah, basically that's what it is.
Even though he's a
right?
little mobby.
See,
he looks like it, but
But he's not.
He's just got to bring that cousin in there one day to break some kneecaps.
like cousin
of,
Sal.
Of
yeah.
Singler.
Threaten him.
And be like, this could be you guys, but we're using him as an example. We're spending this $5 million smartly now.
Yeah. Do you guys
Alright.
remember when he signed that
Oh
contract?
my God, dude. It was so bad.
What has been nice is that we haven't seen any of him. But,
Yeah.
you know, I talked about the depth earlier.
He might be showing up soon.
Yeah, he might come. He moves. He
Get-
moves. He
get
doesn't
ready
do
for
anything
Singler
else,
time,
but he
baby.
moves. That's all he does. All right, this was our first live video pod.
Yeah. It's good times.
Good job. We're going to keep doing these, hopefully every single pod. So thanks for listening and watching if you were watching. Follow us on Twitter at OKC Thunderhead. Subscribe on iTunes. Listen to us on Facebook, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast, and our very own OKCThunderheads.com. You can buy one of our shirts there for just $10. You know that?
They're nice
$10.
shirts. Very
They're so
comfortable.
I'm
comfy.
wearing one right now.
He's got it on
it
right
looks
there.
good.
There it is.
Oh, it looks so good, guys.
Yeah, it does.
The Thunder go to Denver and then back home to face the Clippers and the Mavs over the weekend. So we will catch you guys on Monday with a podcast. Till then, Thunder up. Just let them jam out to this for a bit.